Today was a big day for cannabis policy at the federal level in the United States, with President Biden announcing that he is issuing a pardon to everyone convicted of a federal cannabis possession charge. Historically, I would have written an article about this first, and likely still will, but I figured I'd make a video to share my thoughts about today's historic news. For starters, as I understand it, this is likely to affect about 6,500 people, although that is just an estimate as it's unclear right now what the official process will be to identify eligible people. But 6,500 people seems to be the common estimate floating around right now. To some cannabis advocates, that number seems super low, but people need to realize what exactly Biden's pardons cover, and equally important, what they do not cover. Biden only has the power to pardon people convicted of federal charges, not state, and there are way more people with state cannabis charges on their records versus federal. Furthermore, Biden is not extending pardons to people that have cultivation or distribution related charges on their records, only personal possession. With all of that in mind, the 6,500 statistic that is being floated around doesn't seem too low to me, although again, only time will tell how many people it ultimately ends up helping. Reading between the lines a little bit, I take this to mean that the feds will no longer be charging people for federal possession, at least not while Biden is in office. After all, why pardon everyone and clear the list just to keep adding to the list? I guess that's another thing that we will have to wait and observe going forward. The second part of Biden's announcement involved state governors and urging them to issue similar blanket pardons at the state level for possession. That part really hit home for me and highlights some of the limitations of Biden's announcement, even as it pertains to the scope of personal cannabis possession. My dad was convicted decades ago of a cannabis-only offense here in Oregon involving 4 ounces of brickweed flower. Of course, possession of 8 ounces, twice the amount, of flower is now legal in Oregon and considered to be personal possession. If the scope of Biden's pardon was adopted by Oregon, my dad would not be eligible because decades ago he was charged with a distribution-related offense because cops are assholes. I suspect that there will be similar issues at the federal level. People that were charged with distribution and/or cultivation, even though their cases ultimately involved personal amounts of cannabis, will be left on the outside, which is obviously unfair. The only way to truly and comprehensively deal with the historic and ongoing harms of cannabis prohibition is to end cannabis prohibition, which segues into the third component of Biden's announcement. Biden is tasking his related departments to review the federal government's current status for cannabis, which is currently a Schedule I substance, which is one of the most blatantly illogical things that you will ever see in government, and I know that is saying a lot. Obviously, if the Biden administration is relying on science, logic, and compassion, cannabis would at least be treated like alcohol, being that alcohol is 114 times more harmful for humans than cannabis. Many folks are wondering how long the review process will take and whether it will lead to reclassification or declassification. In my opinion, I doubt it will ever happen while Biden is in office, and whenever anyone asks about it, they will be met with talking points regarding how complex the process is, how more needs to be explored to see what is legally possible, etc. I mean, look how long it took for Biden to do what he did today, and that didn't even require really anything other than the will to just do it. I would be just as happy as anyone to see the Biden administration make a bigger move on cannabis, but I do think that the folks out there need to temper expectations, especially the stock bros who are going bonkers today, acting as if they won the Super Bowl, even though Biden's announcement ultimately doesn't do anything for the industry. With all of that being said, today is still cause for celebration. After all, nothing like this has ever happened in the history of federal cannabis prohibition in the United States. I'm gonna roll up a fat one and catch a ride to the local federal wildlife refuge to celebrate personally. It's a good day. Smoke up, my friends. Congratulate anyone and everyone that is going to receive a pardon, but also keep the foot on the gas pedal, as there's still a lot of work to do. Stay safe and stay stoned, my friends, and thank you for supporting the Higher Things Club.